In the heart of Alabama, at Tuskegee Institute, Booker T. Washington was more than an educator. He was a masterful strategist who headed a secret spy organization known as the Tuskegee Machine. His influence extended across the South, shaping education and political progress with pragmatism, foresight, and decisive action. Washington understood the necessity of power in a resistant world. By day, he championed practical education and self-reliance, empowering generations to build better lives. But by night, he oversaw a network of operatives who ensured his vision faced no unchecked threats. The Tuskegee Machine was a carefully orchestrated web of informants and allies dedicated to protecting and advancing the cause of Black American uplift. In 1898, Washington's network began monitoring the National Afro-American Council, an early civil rights organization. His operatives reported on internal debates such as the council's 1899 Rochester meeting, where Bishop Alexander Waters clashed with I.W. Wells over prioritizing anti-lynching campaigns versus economic initiatives. Washington used this information to position his own approach, economic self-reliance, as the practical path, gaining favor with donors who prioritize stability. This led to a $5,000 or, adjusted for inflation, $200,000 donation from New York banker J.P. Morgan, which Washington used to fund Tuskegee's mechanical arts program. As we know, in 1900, Washington founded the National Negro Business League to wield economic influence. Through this organization, he not only promoted Black entrepreneurship, but also gathered intelligence on emerging businesses and potential rivals, ensuring his vision of economic self-reliance remained dominant. In 1901, his operatives uncovered a plan by the Alabama State Board of Education to impose stricter licensing requirements on Black teachers, potentially disqualifying many Tuskegee graduates. Washington's informants obtained the board's meeting minutes, revealing the proposal's details. He mobilized allies, including white educators like William G. Wilcox, who lobbied the board. This plan was abandoned, and Tuskegee's teaching program gained a $7,000 grant, or $260,000 adjusted for inflation, from the Peabody Education Fund to enhance its curriculum. In 1902, Washington's operatives monitored Atlanta University, where W.E.B. Du Bois taught. They uncovered an $8,000 budget shortfall, or about $293,000 adjusted for inflation, in declining enrollment due to its focus on liberal arts over industrial training. Washington shared these details with donors like John D. Rockefeller, contrasting them with Tuskegee's 1,200 students in self-sustaining programs. By 1904, Rockefeller had increased his annual donation to Tuskegee by $25,000, or $886,000 adjusted for inflation, while Atlanta University's funding stagnated. This financial boost allowed Tuskegee to expand its facilities, cementing Washington's model as the preferred approach. In 1903, his informants in Montgomery uncovered a legislative proposal to cut $15,000, or about $538,000 adjusted for inflation, from Black schools' budgets and redirecting them to white schools. Washington mobilized Julius Rosenwald, who lobbied Governor William Jelks with letters and private meetings. The proposal was defeated, and Tuskegee gained an additional $5,000, or $179,000 adjusted for inflation, for its agricultural program, directly expanding its capacity to train skilled farmers. One of the most notable challenges Washington faced came from Du Bois, who advocated for immediate civil rights through the Niagara Movement. In 1905, at the Harper's Ferry meeting, Washington's operatives were present. They reported back on specific conflicts, like Du Bois' heated clash with William Monroe Trotter over the leadership and strategy of the organization. Trotter wanted aggressive protest, while Du Bois favored intellectual advocacy. Washington used this intel to privately persuade moderates like Mary Church Terrell to distance themselves, offering them roles in his own initiatives. Terrell, seeing the potential for division, withdrew her support from Niagara, weakening the movement's momentum and preserving community unity under Washington's strategy. Also in 1905, his operatives identified the Indianapolis Freeman, a Black newspaper struggling against white dailies like the Indianapolis Star. The paper's editor, George Knox, faced a circulation drop to 5,000 copies weekly. Washington arranged a $3,000 investment, or $107,000 adjusted for inflation, from a Chicago donor, John H. Johnson. By 1907, the Freeman circulation doubled to 10,000, and it became a vocal advocate for Washington's philosophy, publishing weekly editorials praising industrial education and Tuskegee's successes. In 1906, his operatives learned that Alonzo Herndon, a wealthy Tuskegee supporter and founder of the Atlanta Life Insurance Company, was being targeted by a rival faction spreading rumors of embezzlement. The informers traced the smear back to John Merrick, founder of the North Carolina Mutual Life Insurance Company. They gathered evidence of Herndon's clean financial records, including bank statements and client testimonials, and shared it with the Atlanta Independent. The paper's front-page story on March 15, 1906 cleared Herndon's name and exposed Merrick's role. Herndon, in gratitude, donated $10,000 or $350,000 adjusted for inflation to Tuskegee's endowment, strengthening the institute's financial foundation. In 1908, Washington's operatives uncovered a plot by Southern white businessmen to discredit the National Negro Business League with false claims of mismanagement. The informants identified the source as Robert W. Bagnall, a Birmingham businessman resentful of the League's success. Washington's team gathered evidence of the League's transparent finances, including detailed reports and testimonials from members like Madam C.J. Walker, who had built a hair care empire. They shared this with the New York Times, which published an article on September 12, 1908, refuting the claims and praising the League. The exposure led to a $15,000 donation, or $514,000 adjusted for inflation, from Henry Ford, who valued the League's work. In 1909, his informants alerted him to a Washington Post draft criticizing Tuskegee as too vocational. The journalist, John Anderson, had interviewed disgruntled former students at Tuskegee. Washington invited Anderson to the campus, showcasing graduates like Isaac Fisher, now a successful teacher earning $1,200 annually or $41,000 adjusted for inflation. Anderson's final piece, titled Tuskegee, a model for Negro success, published June 10, 1909, praising the institute. The article led to a $20,000 grant, or $693,000 adjusted for inflation, from the Carnegie Foundation, which Washington used to establish a new teacher training program. In 1910, his network uncovered efforts by the Colored Methodist Episcopal Church to establish a rival school in Georgia, emphasizing liberal arts. Operatives obtained the school's proposed curriculum and budget, revealing a $12,000 shortfall, or $400,000 adjusted for inflation. Washington shared this with his donors, contrasting it with Tuskegee's balanced model. The rival school's funding collapsed while Tuskegee received $30,000 or $996,000 adjusted for inflation from the Rockefeller Foundation to expand its industrial departments. In 1912, Washington's operatives infiltrated the NAACP, co-founded by Du Bois. They attended the organization's annual conference in Chicago, reporting on tensions between Du Bois and white co-founder Mary White Ovington over fundraising priorities. Washington used this to convince donors like Jacob Schiff to redirect $10,000 or $325,000 adjusted for inflation from the NAACP to Tuskegee, arguing it was more effective in delivering measurable results. Now, whether you agree with Washington's ideologies and philosophies or not, you gotta admit that having an entire team of spies and wealthy businessmen at your disposal is some MI6 level stuff. For all intents and purposes, Booker T had his own CIA. Not only was he able to defeat competition and enrich his institution, he also used his services to help Black American businesses survive and thrive during rough times. If you notice, as time passed and his influence and work grew, he was able to secure more and more funding. There are so many lessons that can be learned from this part of our history. It emphasizes the importance of creating a competent circle of people that you can always rely on. It highlights the importance of moving in the shadows as to not alert your enemies to your plans. It shows the importance of group economics and investing in your community. It teaches that there are going to be opponents to your success, no matter their race, and there are going to be allies to your success, no matter their race. Your job is to find, vet, and recruit these people to your cause. You should be equally as useful to their cause as they are to yours. Mutual benefit will always be the most efficient incentive for allyship and support. Though critics like Du Bois viewed his tactics as overbearing, Washington was a pragmatic leader navigating a hostile world. His legacy, built on strategic brilliance, a network devoted to progress, and a commitment to tangible results, stands as a testament to his dedication to Black American uplift. He forged a path to a brighter future, one carefully guarded and decisively won, one step at a time.